What are the barriers that we need to be thinking about? Fancy fonts and bullets, right? You may not be aware that a bullet can be voiced differently. In fact, if you were to open up, let me do this really quickly. If you were on a Windows machine and you go into the run dialog and start typing character map, you come up with this little map here that shows all of the different characters. Now, I might scroll through this and say, you know what? I want this as a bullet. We've all seen this black arrow, right? Well, for someone using a screen reader, black right pointing pointer is what it's going to voice every time it gets to that bullet. So if each of these bullets, instead of being a number, was this black pointer, you would hear black right pointing pointer, fancy font bullets, black right pointing pointer, complex language, black right pointing. Anybody tired yet? No one wants to hear that, right? Let's look at some of these other ones that I've seen. Now, this is one I see a lot. This is lozenge, right? So who wants to hear lozenge on every bullet? Now, this one is called dotted circle. And then there's one, see, I'm too far away to see it. One of the things to note is inside Word, there is a bullet, the default bullet. Matter of fact, let's open up Word real quick. Here is those list of names, right? So if we look at our default bullets, we have two bullets here. This is the default one for a second level. Let's zoom in. Okay. This bullet, if we were to define new bullet and go to symbol, we can see that this bullet, which was, I'm sorry, I'm going to do that one more time. Symbol. There we go. So, give me 1 second. The default second level bullet here is symbol, the small letter O. And so a screen reader is going to hear O, Vic Doubloon, O, Leroy, O, sword, O, biscuit, O after every one of those bullets. And it's the default second level bullet for Word. So if I were to come in here and go in and just select my normal bullet, and then let's just say these three people were underneath that person, these are all going to be read as O biscuits, O Bo, O Aristotle, every one of them, right? So realize that what bullet you make makes a difference in how it's going to be voiced on the other end, right? Yes, O biscuits, exactly, right? So we can change those, but just realize that that's an experience. Complex language, that means both complex in how we speak and how it's organized, right? When you use terms, fancy terms, I've got a handout called Writing for Accessibility that talks about, it's got a table that has the fancy, $10 word or phrase, and then how we can say that in plain English, right? Such that it is, or I mean, there's a whole list of them, but there's basically trying to keep our words as plain as possible so that people with cognitive abilities, different cognitive abilities, can understand. Of course, we know red-green combinations have a colorblind connotation. And so having things that are red and yellow and green, we see this all the time. We call it the stoplight syndrome, where, red is behind schedule, yellow is at risk, and green is on schedule or on budget. The problem with that is if you just have yellow, red, and green circles, you don't have an ability to tell one color from another, just like that text we were looking at before. So make a red square, a green triangle, and a yellow circle. And now it doesn't matter whether it's red, green, or yellow. I know the shape based on the coding that everything that's a square is behind schedule and everything that's a triangle is, on schedule, right? So using more than just color. And then, of course, color contrast, being able to make sure your text is dark enough. If we go back to our document here, let's actually go to the document in question. And if we look at some of this text, right? I am going to find something that's a little more. That's actually not bad because they use different, well, they have, see how there's different symbols inside here? There's an apple and a pine tree. I guess these are talking about different different types of forestation. Good use of symbols, right? Good use of symbology here. But let's look at something that's color contrast. Definitely good color contrast. But if you look at this, boy, that sure is hard to read. And especially if you get out here, right? That's definitely harder to read. But if we use that tool, the color contrast analyzer, let's go ahead and just open that really quickly. Waiting for it to open. You guys can see that tool, yes? All right. So if I use this eyedropper and I come in here and I grab this tool and I go, oh, what color is that? Okay, that's that color. And then what's my background color? Well, I know it's white. It shows me an example of what it is, and it tells me the contrast ratio. And it tells me that I fail for both large text and regular text. So what I can do is if I have this selected, HSL is selected, I have this slider called lightness. And I can go, okay, I want green. So what color green will pass? If I just start dragging the slider left, watch this number. If I get to this point, boom, now 3-to-1 passes for large text. So if this were a heading level 1, I could be only this dark. But if I want it to be this smaller text, I have to keep going, right? And that is 4.5-to-1. Once I get past 4.5, now I know I'm compliant for small text too. Then I can just take this color, copy it into my InDesign file, and know that my colors are going to meet minimum color contrast. And more importantly, that people with low vision can actually see it, right? I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. All right, let's go back. So items in red. So the question is from Nora, what's your recommendation for when we're submitting proposals specifically with the customer's brand colors? Well, here's the thing to remember is not everybody is in the same place in their accessibility journey. And so having those conversations has to be done with a little bit of tact, right? And if the client says, we want this to be the brand colors when you submit this deliverable, then you just bring up the fact that, hey, just so you know, this is an accessibility barrier. You're asking us in the contract to provide deliverables that meet accessibility. We're at an impasse here. We just need your guidance. And if they say, we don't care about color, we just want to make this our brand colors, we want it to be what we want it to be, then maybe you have them just sign an email or something that says, hey, we realize that we're doing everything but this color contrast thing. Or you can submit, usually what I think is always best is when you approach it with, hey, here's 3 other color choices that would still meet minimum color contrast and are similar to your brand colors. And most of the time they say, sure, why not? We've got to pass accessibility. They don't know the solution. They're relying on you. And when you bring them the solution, when you present them the problem, then that really helps get buy-in. It's when you just say, well, this doesn't meet contrast. And they're like, I don't even know what that means, let alone what to tell you the solution is, right? So making sure that you've got that solution really helps kind of grease the wheels to make things move. Did that answer your question? Hopefully so. A sales request. So it says, sorry, I didn't scroll down. What's your suggestion for framing that conversation with sales folks? Okay, well, here's the thing. When you are trying to create a proposal and your sales team is saying, look, we want to brand this to the client's colors because we think that's important to show brand identity, that we're trying to connect with the client. I would say that they're not going to choose you because you pick the colors in their logo. They're going to choose you because you have experience, you understand the technology, and you understand the terms of the contract. And one of the terms of the contract is likely Section 508 compliance or compliance with the web content accessibility guidelines, right? And so if that's a line item in your proposal and you show that you're meeting that in your RFP, in your response, that goes leaps and bounds towards being instilling confidence in the client that you understand what's going on. In fact, we have been partners, Chad and I have been partners on several teams to help engineering firms develop accessible content. And what we do is we put proposal designed with accessibility in mind in the inside cover page so that they know we've thought about what the colors are, that it has accessible links, that we're using color contrast. It sparked a couple of different conversations with clients who were like, what does that mean? What do you mean there? And then you now have that conversation with the client and they're like, wow, I had no idea, right? And that really helps you kind of, it's a definite differentiator for sure. All right.